Turn up for the getting started workshop we're doing today. So, a couple of things for the venue where we are here today. Microsoft Reactor, just some housekeeping. I'm sure you're aware of them already, but I need to have these in my slides so everyone is aware of what's going on. First up, the code of conduct for this event, and because we're co-hosting this with Svelte Society as well, and Reactor, Microsoft Reactor London, there's codes of conduct. So I'm hoping everyone is aware of the several codes of conduct. Any breaches of these, please talk to myself or one of the staff here. Safety information as well. It's a great building. I love this place. Been here a couple of times already. If there's a fire alarm, fire exit that way. So as you come out the building, turn right, there's a muster point just up the road here. First aid incidents, we've got George on hand here, and one of the staff, just go talk to them. No smoking, you should sort of go without saying really, or vaping. Okay, so Microsoft Reactor, but we're here to talk about React today. I'm going to keep doing this pun until I get a laugh out of it. Today is Microsoft Svelte. Okay, so a little bit about me. This workshop's been brought to you by a company I work with, Storyblock. I'm a developer relations engineer there, and Storyblock's in the CMS. We'll know any more about that, come talk to me after the workshop. I organised the Svelte London meetup with my co-organisers, Akash and Anthony, and we've been here a couple of times with this. A really good venue, and I'll stop saying that now, I guess. And I do workshops like this one, and I'm also a cat dad. There you go, that's Boris, Leo, and Darcy. And I'm also a human dad, but I'm not sure which is my family. Okay, schedule. So, you should have all got an email with this short link in it. This is going to contain all the information, all of the workshop materials we'll be going through for this workshop. So if you haven't got that already, just take time now to get that so you can access that. It will be a Notion document, and you can duplicate that and add your own notes to it as we go through the material. So the schedule, because we've got a bit of an issue with the food, I'm going to talk about Svelte first, talk about some Svelte basics. Then we're going to talk about the projects we're going to build together. We're going to have some breaks. The first break of which is as soon as I finish these slides, as the feature will be turning up immediately. Okay, so everyone knows what Svelte is? It's a component framework. This means you're writing declarative code rather than imperative code. More on that in a second. There's no virtual DOM, unlike other popular component frameworks. It's a compiler. It's not the only one now with other frameworks. Quick, I believe, is also a compiler. And it's not as new as you might believe. Version 1 was released in November 2016, I believe. So, let's talk about a framework quickly. What's a framework? It allows you to write declarative code. So this means you can tell the person what you want the outcome to be, rather than telling it exactly what to do. So, just as a quick example, let's take a quick look at imperative versus declarative code here. So imperative with our nicely very descriptive component name, we're going to create a variable for counting, and we're also going to create a button for that and add some text content to it with the variable count. So whatever that variable is, it's going to show how many times that button's been clicked. Then we need to add an event listener to the button as well. And then eventually it's going to return that back to the browser to use. So the same code in Svelte, in a declarative framework. We'll do Svelte first. This is that same code. We're just using the on-click directive here, and we're inlining our count component. So every time I click the button, the count's going to go increment by 1. These aren't great examples. A lot of these examples we're going to look at are from the the Svelte tutorial. You can find that online. So just going over stuff which is readily available, so you can go and find this again once we've done this workshop. So yeah, we're just using the old interactive here in creating our account. So yeah, I'm quite okay now. So let's take a look at the same code in React. And I'm not sure if that return statement needs to be in parentheses there, but you could just put it on line. And we're doing the same thing, just using the React set state here in creating our hub account. So that's the same with Svelte. So you might notice with Svelte there is less code you write, and that's what a lot of people who sort of start using it find. Now, I have heard that with Svelte you generally write 40% less code, but my good friend Chris Ellis also said that 99% of statistics are made up on the spot. So take with that what you will, but I do find you generally do quite a lot less code. So let's take a look at some basics with Svelte. It's a HTML superset. What does that mean? It means anything which is added HTML, which is in the HTML spec, will plug in a Svelte file. We'll take a look at styling and reactivity and how you can pass properties to a component in Svelte. And also logic flow, rendering logic, stuff like that. Okay, so HTML superset, wrap up whatever you want into the markup, and that's what we'll get ready onto the component or page. Typical sort of anatomy of a Svelte file, which you have your script tags, your markup, and your style. I have seen people do it where you have the markup first and the JavaScript underneath that. I've always found this way, this is how I've sort of learned it, and in most of the documentation you see this is the sort of anatomy of it. Styling. So each component in Svelte has its styles scraped to that component. So that means this file here will only have the comic sounds applied to that component. It doesn't leak throughout the rest of the project. We're not going to get too much into that because with the workshop we're going to be working with talent. But this is a really good way to organise your styles with components and pages within your project. Let's talk about reactivity in Svelte. Again, this is taken from the tutorial. So this $colon here, because Svelte's compiler, it knows and it can understand, track each one of the variables which are in the project. But say if you want to have a variable react of the state of another one, you can do this by using this $colon syntax here. So doubled is basically the count times 2. So we're just going to create a function here and assign it to our button, and this is going to double up each time the button's clicked, reacting from that double variable there. So you might be thinking, what is this? This doesn't look kosher, but absolutely is. This is valid JavaScript, and you can take a look on MDN documentation for this. It's the JavaScript for label, and it's not very widely used, which is why the Svelte team decided to co-opt it and use it for reactive variables in Svelte. Are there any gotchas with this? Yes, there are. So if you are mutating, if you're using any mutation functions in JavaScript, it won't do anything because Svelte works on assignment. So rather than mutating your variables, what you need to do here is use the ES6 spread operator and assign it back into that function. Props. Another bit of the syntax here, export that. It was really weird when I first saw this, but it's sort of second nature to me. But again, this is just valid JavaScript, which the Svelte compiler can recognize and know. This is going to be a property we pass into this page. So with our nested component here, which is that file there, we are going to pass in a property for the answer prop over here, and then it's going to return it in the markup here. So one other nice thing we start is that if your variable is the same as the prop you're passing in, Svelte will just take out the answer equals and just wrap it in parentheses for you. So that's a nice little bit of what's the word for it? DX for you. Okay, so let's go through the thing. Logic. So Svelte is like a templating language, so everything is wrapped up in. If you want to do any conditional rendering, you need to wrap these in curly voids, which I haven't got here, but we'll look at the curly examples in a second. We've got if, else, each, and wait, which are the main ones. And to break up the logic block, you have the curly void and a hash, which would open the logic block. You'd have the forward slash to close it, and then a colon if there was any continuation what to do within that block. Let's take a look at that now. So on here, we're going to do two buttons. And we want to use some conditional logic here to say if the user's logged in, then we're only going to show one button. So at the moment, we've got two if statements. It doesn't really make sense to do that. What we could do is just use an else here. So if the user isn't logged in, we're just going to show the login button there. Okay, each is the one I use all the time. We use in this workshop as well. So you have your array-like object, which you've got here, speakers array. You can loop over each speaker in the speakers array here, and then we're just going to bring this time the whole list. And then we can also add index to this as well. So we just give the speaker a number as well. So it's going to bring an 8A for each one of the speakers in that array. And wait, this is what I do something synchronously on the page. After the page is mounted, again, this is from the Svelte tutorial, so you can take a look at this after the workshop here. But essentially what we're doing is we're just we're waiting on this promise to resolve, which is this one here on the side end. And down here, can you all make this out okay? Basically, that's just a wait. We should have bumped up the font size here. So we're going to wait the promise. When that's happening, we're just going to render the ping tag that's waiting here. Then when it resolves, we're going to show the result of that promise. Otherwise, we're going to catch an error and display to the user. Okay. Just looking at the back here, how we do the time. Right, so intro done. We're going to do the SvelteKit project now. It's a blog example. Sorry, not sorry. It's what I do all the time. So basically, we're going to get some data from an endpoint somewhere, which you're going to decide on once I've gone through the stack we're going to use. So we're going to be using Tailwind data UI just for the speed at which we can get stuff done. I don't want everyone to be stuck in style tags, assigning stars to buttons and stuff. So this is the fastest way I think we can do it in the time we have, because we've got 2 hours. Yes, so for the data part, this is where I want you to choose your own adventure here. So if you've looked at the Notion document, there's now a fork in the road. We can go down 2 different ways here, and it's up to you which way you pick. So to show of hands, who would like to do GraphQL? Who would like to do REST? Good. What I will say is before we get into this, the two examples I've got, I tried to get two which were very similar, and the GraphQL one isn't very featured, let's say. So there's a lot of missing information in there. The rest one, there's some really cool stuff in there we can do. So that's a good sign. Just hoping we can rattle through it after we've had our refreshments. That's it. That's the end of the slides. So I think we are going to break now. We're breaking. And come back and go through the rest of the workshop once we've done that. Yeah. No, I'll put something in here. I'll change the slide here. My mic's off, so.
Because if I unblock us, I won't be able to start. Because it's a session. Quick. So, yeah.
Does everyone want food? I guess it's a good question as well.
Yeah, you might want to carry on. The lunch is here, pizzas and drinks. Over is it okay? 10 minutes, 15 minutes break you can eat, or you're okay to go ahead? You can carry on talk. Because our concern is the pizza, the might get cold.
We can microwave it later.
Or we can microwave it, say, okay, microwave.
I would just say 5 minutes, grab a slice of pizza.
Yeah, so 5 minutes, right?
So 5 minutes break, so we're gonna put it in because we're streaming live.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so we don't want another part of the world wonder what's going on there.
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't want to stop because it's gonna lose the connection. We just put a sign break. And then you can quickly grab something. You don't want to start it and be like, oh, but
You want this, yeah, this.
It's not yourself at the lunch. The different type of pizza is for the services, drink benefits, or on one plate to the machine.
Just like 5 to 10 minutes. That's going to be a good mission.
Yeah.
This is cool though. I don't know. I'm just really excited. Yeah. Because it's all the styling's already done, so you just add the class name. Yeah, because they want us to use it, so you don't have to write it in style.
Is there a chance that it's gone, or is there a chance that you probably have to before?
Yeah, it's been joined in boxes. Das sind die Hochwechsel werden. Ja, abwechselnd so stehen. Ja, diese klassischen Webseiten, kleine ja, nicht einfach Bildungsboards. Ja, das ist nochmal vorbei. Das ist
The beach one is amazing. The beach one is like, number very. Yes.
To make sense of things. Yeah, exactly. Yes, let's do just,
Back there?
That's it. Good stuff.
We're all good. Okay. Okay, so as I said at the start, all this information readily available to us in the Notion doc I shared. So I'm literally going to be going through the notes I've made for everyone here, and sometimes copy paste the code, sometimes write it out for us. But what's my reference? Yes. Okay, so let's get started. I'm a Windows user. Sorry, not sorry. This is, I mean, I've also got Mac, but this is where I think I'll be most productive. So we're going to start off by using the Svelte create command. So you can use npm or pnpm or yarn. I'm using create. Getting started with Svelte and SvelteKit. So this is going to kick off the SvelteKit CLI for us, and it's going to give us some options. And getting started with SvelteKit is the folder it's going to create into. And it looks like that folder already exists. So let's okay, let's do that again. Right. So, so from here, I'm going to use the SvelteKit skeleton project. The demo app is great. If I could say the screen line, yeah. So there's the Svelte app in there, which is just a take on Wordle, but in SvelteKit. And there's also, if you want to create a library, so you can PNG install, there's a library project you can use. We're going to use the skeleton project. Okay, it's in TypeScript. You can use nothing if you prefer, but I'd recommend using either JS.comments or TypeScript syntax. We're using TypeScript here, and I'm just going to say yes to all them, but you don't have to. I find if there's, I just do it automatically now because there's usually a time further down the line when I need one of those things and I have to sort of work out to get in there. So set as default. So we're going to follow the next steps from the CLI here. It's going to change it into the directory. And then install those dependencies. And depending on how good the Wi-Fi is, it should be two actually using PPM. I think I've just really used a load of dependencies there rather than downloading. Didn't download anything. And follow the rest of the instructions here. So I'm just going to click this again. And the only reason why I'm doing this is just so we can look at what's being changed after we've made some changes. And then finally, it's going to start the dev server, but there's one thing I want to point out, is this install queue integrations. We come on to this in a bit, but this is really cool. But we're going to use that for a tailwind shortly. So the last thing was to run the dev server. So you can use the -- open flag here to open up the default browser. And that's really bright. And there's also other options you can pass in for things like the ports. So say if you wanted to find a port, you could say --port 53, and you could even set that in the vi config in the project. So one thing I haven't done yet, excuse me, is open it up in VS Code. So let's just take a quick look at this in VS Code. And I'm hoping we can all see that okay? Does that need to be bigger? Oh, cool. All right. Let's take a look at the Svelte project here. So as I said, if you want to add in like a default port terminal, I think it's server, in the config of vi config. So what I should have mentioned is that SvelteKit uses vi, as a lot of other modern frameworks are now, and there's a really tight integration between using Svelte with vi. So if you want to change the default port here, we just do that in the vi config. I'm just going to leave it the default port for what we're going through. So let's add this. I haven't made any changes since I installed it all. Okay, so we've got our main project. Let's go on to the next section where we're going to install. We're just going to get the config of Tailwind out of the way. So in the SvelteKit CLI command output here, you've just seen there's this Svelte add integration. So if I just command click on that. This is Jacob, who has done a great job of this. You can add in lots of integrations here, especially in these folks, it's very handy, PostCSS and Tailwind. We're just going to look at the Tailwind one, and this is just an npx command, and there's also additional flags for the typography plugin and Daisy map. So I'm just going to add those here. So it's got this in my terminal history. So typography and Daisy UI. Typography, the Tailwind plugin just means that we're not messing about with PowerPoint look. You can just wrap everything in the pros utility class, and it makes everything look nice. What's happened here? Oh, it's an API, that's fine. What was that last command? NPX? Yeah, okay. That should be PNPM. Okay, and yeah, TypeScript has recently gone up to version 5, I think. Yeah, version 5 for SvelteKit. I'm sure that'll get sorted out eventually, but it's not for us to worry about right now. Okay, so now, if I go and run the dev server again, go to localhost here. This is just applied to the DaisyY default styles. We can change these, we can pick out of any of the 29 themes available to us here. If you go to daisyY.com, you can play around with things on here. Pick out whatever one you feel comfortable with. I'm going to choose cupcake. So you can change that with data attribute in the app.html file for the project. So this is basically where everything gets built into. We've got the Svelte head, anything which we'll come on to this later, but there is a Svelte head component where you can add meta tags for open graph information. What else would you want to add into a head? Script tags you want to add in. And you can do that with the Svelte head component. Everything is compiled into this when the project runs. So you'll notice as well, after installing the Tailwind and DaisyY config there, I've now got Tailwind config, and don't worry about these squiggly lines, this is just my spell checker. So I'm just going to say, add this to the workspace settings, and same for this. Oops. Because I want this type things. Yes, I'll tell you config. You can also further extend DaisyY here, so if you just want to use two themes, you can pick them out here, and just pick out everything on here, and it'll be restricted to those for you. I'm not going to do that because we're going to be taking a look at changing the theme later if we get a chance. So, yeah, okay. This is a post CSS file at the moment. I want to change this to CSS. And you also notice when we run the config for Tailwind here, we've also got this layout file created for us. So layout file wraps anything underneath it, so you can set different layouts for different parts of your app. So say if you have like an admin page and a main page, you can do different layouts for each one. They just have to be nested underneath that layout. So you can do some really cool things with layouts in Svelte, where you can group things into folders. So you can put brackets around stuff, and those brackets aren't recognised as parts of the roots, but anything within it is. I need to do an example of this, but not for this workshop, but you can do some really good things with layouts in Svelte. So this slot here, basically this is, if you're familiar with React, this is just children for everything underneath it. Okay, so where are we going now? Okay, so let's just bring this data attribute for the theme. And we're going to pick corporate. Now we'll see how that looks. Okay. And at the moment, it doesn't look great. We'll come on to styling later. What I'm going to concentrate on now is just getting some data. So we've all decided we're not going to do GraphQL, we're going to do REST instead. So on the documentation, if you go to the REST part, we're going to be using the dummyJSON endpoint. Let's find it on here actually. Here we go. So from here, we're going to be concentrating on users and posts, because it's a blog, so there are posts. Here you go. So again, using several routes from here, we're using posts and posts.id, so /. We're not going to be taking a look at searching, but we'll be taking a look at query parameters, and you could adapt this further once we are done here. and there's also the users. So one thing I want to point out, it's also in the Notion doc. I want to have a list of posts and users who have made those posts. And it wasn't until I actually finished all of the coursework, I realised that the users don't have a list of posts which they've done. So we're going to be doing some work with REST, where we're going to be in like a fictional scenario where we would have all posts related to the user would do what you would do with that. But we'll come on to that in a bit. First of all, we want to actually get the data into our front end. So to do that, how SvelteKit handles data for page loading, you notice the file notation here for plus page.svelte plus layout.svelte. Why is it like this? So the Svelte team had a good think about how to do this, and this is what they came out with. And I personally like it. If you want to create a group here, just go to your roots folder. So there was a time where we could just like make an about page.svelte here, but that won't work anymore. So if we go to our dev server and go to about here, this should go around because it's not plus page, and I actually can't hide. Yeah, 404. So this would need to be in its own folder. So something like new file about folder, and this needs to be a plus page.svelte file. So not sure if you're aware with VS Code there. I'll just put it in the about slash. That's actually going to create the folder for that for you as well. Just a nice little tip if you didn't know that. And then here, I'll just put in my about page. And we should have this on our dev server. Okay. But we're not going to look at that. So, let's delete this. And this. Right. So we want to get some external data into our data. What's going on? Right. So we're going to get some external data into our page, and then the way we can do that with Svelte is with the plus page, and it's going to be a TS file. So in here, this is where we have a load function, which will go off, get the external information, and then pass it back to the page, which is at the same level as that TS file. If you want to get information from a server, you can do this. This will happen. So the information grabs in this file here would be on both the server and the client. If you have sensitive information which you want to get server side only, you would use that in a plus page.server file. So that would be plus page.ts or JS. But for this file here, we're getting this from the dummyJSON API, so we should be able to export that. Can I not snippet for this? No. This is going to be a const. And this is going to be a load function. So if you look at the documentation and for these TS files, you can see that I'm actually using type for the page load. And I found out yesterday evening that we don't need to do that anymore because Svelte does this all internally now. But let's just do this as we would. So as to say page load, let's bring it in from the types. And this is an async function. And we'll bring page, bring fetch. So then in here, we could go off and get the information. I've got a Copilot terminal as well, so just try and guess what I want. That's close enough. I might be tempted just to complete that and then just do the rest right over here. So this is going to be the dummyJSON API. Cool. And what's what called posts from our posts endpoint. So we're going to await the response, but we're going to see if the response isn't okay, then we're just going to throw the error here. And okay. Yeah, let's go down. Let's Copilot. And let's close that. So if we've got a good response here, we're just going to mess about with this. Let's go return JSON. Right. So this goes off, does this call to the dummyJSON API before page mounts, and then supplies this information to page.SvelteKit at the moment, which is just page. At the moment, it's just this one SvelteKit, but we can have the data available to it in some script tags here as data. So take a look at this. That doesn't look right. This. Dump this out into a pre-JSON tag. And so the information from the page load here for this post endpoint should now be dumped into our page.svelte file. So let's take a look at our dev server. And we've got that information coming back from the dummyJSON API. Cool. So we've got a post way to iterate over. In our page now, we can start working with this. So let's move this down here. Let's use a svelte each function, each block here. So we want to use data.posts. And what I can't see. And then for each post, we want to render a H2 with the post.type. So, what's it like? Posts, data.posts. Right, so we've got each type for our post now. So now we can start working with the data in the this post object here. Everyone okay so far? You all right? Do you need help from me? Okay. So, who are we doing? We've got an hour, so I think we're doing okay. So I'm just going over the sort of the main part here, which is getting external data. When we have our like associated files here, so the page.ts file has this load function, and it supplies this information to the page file here as data. Okay. So you could do. Yes.
Can I just ask? It's a bit too fast for me.
Okay. Sorry.
The word data. Let's data.
Yep.
Data is just come from where?
Yeah, I was just explaining that. Sorry. So our page.ts file here.
Yes.
This is where we are loading up the data for that page. So
How is the connection between the function that's called load page and the variable that's called data. I mean, I suppose that TypeScript gets executed and then the result is automatically put into.
It's the file notation. So the plus page, anything with, so we have the plus page.svelte file, the plus page.ts file, where in each one of those files you can have a load function. The load function will go off and get the data for the page at the same level. So the
function must be called load.
Yes.
So we get data or something like that.
Yes, it's the load function for that file. So
And so whatever you call that, that variable load function will automatically put the stuff into whatever that's called on this page.
not whatever it's called, it comes in as data. So it recognizes it as data because the load function will, if we go back to the page, we're just dumping out that data object. So data at the moment is just posts. So this post information, if we take a look at the dummyJSON API as well, let's go here, dummyJSON.com, and we go to docs, and we find the posts, get all posts, single post, get all posts, show out. So you can see here, we're getting that data on our page here, just from this initial call in our page.ts file, plus page.ts. What's important to know is the notation means that those files are grouped together, so the plus page.svelte file understands that it will get data from that file. So, it's not clear.
Sorry, one more question. It is plus page to Svelte.
Huh?
It's called. Can you switch to that file? Sorry.
The data?
No, the Svelte file.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So must it be data? Could it be cats or dogs or something?
No, it recognizes it as data. Okay. So we're using the export that here.
Yeah.
It's being passed to it as data from the plus page.ts file. So it accepts that as the prompt. Any other questions? So, inside each block here, now I can access the properties of that object, which is being returned by the page.ts file here. So if we take a look at the data that's coming through, I've got the title, the body, user ID, and tags available to me. So inside this plus page.svelte file here, I can now go and grab those properties and burn them out. So I've got the title, and let's put in a p tag for body. So again, curly boys, and I can get any of the post.information here. So this is post.data. This should be post.body. If we go back over to our page here, you see it's filling out. We'll come on to style this in a second, it's a lot nicer. And then we can also loop over the tags, which were here. So what we can just assume is that there's always going to be tags here, but if there's not, then we can check, first of all, if there are tags, and then ready those out. So let's put these in div, and then rather than use an each, we can say if there are post tags, then we can sort of render out the tags in here with another each. So this would be post.tags, big tag. Then I'll put this in a span. And I guess history, American crime, I guess that's what those tags are there. Let's take a look at this. Yeah. Let's go back here. Yeah, so we're bringing out our tags now as well. Okay, so I'm going to commit what I've done so far and make sure everyone's okay. Oh, I've got a load of. Okay, cool. There's one stop. There you go. So I'm going to add that and let's clean that. And I'm going to say good API data. Fed. Okay. So we've got our data. It doesn't look great at the moment. We'll come up with start this shortly, but before we do this, let's just have each bit of this information coming into the page as a Svelte component, so then we can use that in other parts of the project. So let's talk about making components, but before we go on to doing that, is everyone okay with how things are at the moment? You look really confused still. Are you okay with everything now, or do you need anything else explaining? Or? Sorry.
Yeah, just a quick question. I'm sure you mentioned this. But what's the relationship between page data and page load?
Page.
Yeah, so like in the page.ts file, like we imported the page load.
Yeah, so the page load here, just get rid of this for now. So this will go off and get the information for the page before it loads, and put this into a data object, which then passes to data variable prop, which it passes to the page here. So you can do this with a layout plus layout.ts file as well. The information will be supplied as a data prop back to the layout. So at each level, you have corresponding page.svelte file, page.ts file. If it's and the page.ts file will get the information both server side and client side. So if I put in console log statement here, and take a look at this in, oh god, our client, if we pop open the DevTools, go to the console, you can see this is on here and also on the server. If I just want to get information from the server, I do a plus page.server.ts and then that may be on the server side. So if you're getting sensitive information from someone when you have to pass sensitive credentials, you'd use that file for that. But because this is publicly available API, we'll just do it this side. This is quite handy to do a much better job of explaining the relationship between the page like data loading for them. So that's a good point. And sorry, I've confused everyone with that. Okay, let's make some components. So at the moment, we've just got our information being rendered out to our Svelte page here. And say if we have an index page where we're going to render out all the posts from the endpoint, but we also want to have a post endpoint as well, where it's just going to render for each one. rather than have this repeated code, what we'll do, we're just going to chuck it into a component. So for all of this here, I'm just going to take this, copy that, and create a lib folder for components. This mouse now. Right. So here I want lib components, and I'm going to call this postcard.svelte. I don't want to be teaching you bad practices with the naming convention here. I always choose code case for my file names. You've probably seen a lot of people who will be using camel case for their component names. In the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter, choose what you like, but this is what I like to go with. So again, we're going to be talking about passing props to a component here. So we're using the export let for the component. So what we're going to do is just grab this markup here and put it into a section tag and paste it in there. Cut and paste. Right. And you notice I've got some link issues here because post doesn't exist in this file. So again, we're going to need to bring in props. Export that. And this will be post. And it's going to complain because it says it doesn't got any type. So I'm going to put in the types for this as well. Yes. I've just noticed an issue with the documentation as well. It looks like I pasted it in twice, so I do apologise for that. But for the type for this, just to stop this screeners, I'm going to bring in the page data, and it's going to be post 0. So, yeah, the types here, these are generated by SvelteKit, and then you see them file up here. So, for this root here, go to the types, you can see that, it doesn't need to be there. Have the types in here, this here. Yeah, page data. Stuff way out of my comfort level there, but I'm just going to bring that type there. So yeah, it's the compiler screeners for this. So now I can reuse this as long as I pass the post prop to this file. So back in the page here, I can import that postcard. And IntelliSense here just let me auto import it. So it's up here coming from lib. It should be $lib. I'm going to pass in the post. So you notice here, if I say post equals post for the prop, which is being passed in, and hit save on there, pretty is just going to remove that because it's the same as what's being passed into the component. So if we go back on to our page, nothing has changed, which is great. So we can reuse this postcard component anywhere else now we want to use the that post data. So why is it moving from the lib? So lib is should we use $lib here? Okay. Maybe something to restart this up. Okay. So I'm guessing that was a Svelte terms thing that needs to do. Okay. So let's go to add in some styles here. So rather than me trying to type each of the styles, I'm just going to copy paste from the workshop information here. So in our layout file, we're just going to use some constrained, give it a constrained layout, so it's not taking up the whole width of the page. So I'm going to wrap this up in the main tag, and then hit this class container, and then add in some classes, some utility classes from Tailwind to our postcard component here. So I'm just going to add in some shadows. I think I'm just going to copy paste this shadow. Right, we'll explain that. Just want to make sure this is looking okay. All right. So we're using DaisyY utility classes here and Tailwind utility classes. So there's a color component with DaisyY. Also the background base component, giving it a shadow, giving it some margin bottom. And we're grouping it with this link hover here on the P tag. So once you hover over it, it's going to hover over the whole card. It's just going to give you the impression that you can click on the card and go to that route. So when I go to that route, I get a 404 because post/2 doesn't exist. So let's just go back to that bit where post ID, I should go into more detail on this, but our post ID on the JSON, which is being output here, is what we're going to use to route the user to the actual post, so we can display the full bit of information, because I think the main postcard, we're just going to truncate that to the first 80 characters. So you sort of get a taste of what that post is, and then click on it for more information, and then it's going to direct you to that post. So now we're going to take a look at routing in SvelteKit. Everyone okay where we are? So we just added in some nice styles to our postcard, which we scaffolded out previously. This should be /post. So yeah, we're doing an ahref, and we're pointing to an internal ID here, which we need to create that route. So we're going to talk about routing. Often we're adding some more components. So we're just going to add in a navbar, and we'll commit that, and then we'll talk about how we do routing in SvelteKit. So let's create a nav. It's going to take information again from documentation here. So rather than try and do that in our components file nav.svelte, and then this is just some DaisyY classes again, and over to the left, we're just going to see JS as a way to get back to the home page with an anchor tag wrapped around it. So we're not going to put that nav on each individual page in our project. So to have it accessible throughout the project, the best place to put that would be in our layout file here. So let's import that here at the bottom of the main tag. So now, if we go back around to our project, it's now Why wasn't it rendered on that page there? Oh, because it's not sticky. Right, so we get it on each route we navigate to now. So another cool thing I want to talk about is that the data being loaded for each one of these routes here, in the app.html file for where the whole project is loaded into, there's this data.SvelteKit preload data. So what this does is anytime you hover over a link to a route inside the Svelte project, if there is a corresponding load function for that page, it will go off and call that load function before the link is clicked. So if you've got a lot of information which needs to be put onto that page, you've got that added bit of time between the user hovering and clicking before the data is loaded. So we can take a look at that once we get the routes sorted for our posts here. Everyone okay? Any questions? Okay, let's move on. Right. Let's go that for now. Add that. Say, post code. All right. Right, now take a look at that routing. We've got 40 minutes. Is everyone okay? Do you want to take a quick break, or is everyone okay just to power on through? Cool. Right, let's go back here. Just wondering what all of this was. The route doesn't exist in that post, okay, cool. Right, let's create these routes. So, routing in SvelteKit, there's I sort of demonstrated at the beginning for the About page I put together. We have to create a folder, and then there's a corresponding page.svelte file or an accompanying plus page.ts server. Whatever file needs to go in there to load the data for you as well. If you want to do that for the route, which is defined in this card here. So clicking on the card, we get a post ID, but not this post route. So we need to create that post route first of all. Rather than create a page for each one of these, post 1, post 2, post 1, whatever, we're going to use the dynamic routing in SvelteKit. So to do that, what we're going to need to do is have a new file, and it's going to be for post, and this is going to take in parameters. For this case, it's an ID, so I'm going to put that as an ID. Then I've got the /page. I'm going to do the data first, and then we'll take a look at the Svelte file afterwards. So this now is post /whatever. So let's just take a quick look at that. Let's do that. And we're going to use related params as well. So the load function here takes in, so this load function takes in the context object from where it's being called. So rather than me destructure out these properties here, we're going to take a quick look at the context object here. So this is going to need to return something. Just return it to object for now. And let's log out this context object. And we'll take a look at that. So if I go over to my terminal, which is empty at the moment, cool. And then we try and navigate to one of those routes, which is this one. So we should get my context object. Why haven't I got that? Am I on the right? Post it one. Alright, slide text bit here. Here we go. Right, okay. So we've got the context object here. In here, we've got the URL. And you also see the path name, which is post one. And you also see the params, which is ID. So params is whatever's in that square bracket notation. So that square bracket could be anything. And that should be logged down in the params object down here. Okay, cool. So we're going to use that to start generating the page information, which we're going to get from the dummyJSON API again. So this time it's going to be for post ID. So if we go back over to dummyJSON, this is for posts. This is what we're looking at here. Get a single post. This is going to be / the ID of the post. So pretty much repeating the pattern in our index here. Apart from we're just going to be adding another slash. So let's just replace this. Posts. And so we check down. Yeah, posts / and use the string interpolation here to get the params, which is params. I'm going to destructure the ID from params. So now if I put in ID here, and rather than try and log it out in here, it's going to put it into a page for this post. So in ID here, we have a page, .svelte file, and I'm going to bring in the data from the endpoint, sorry, from the load function here. And again, just going to dump this out into a pre-JSON tag, just so we can see what we're working with. So now, if we go back to our home page here, click on one of these, we get the JSON output for that. So now we can click around on any of these and get the post information for that. And render out some information for the post title, the body, the tags. But what about the author? So this is what I sort of caveated quite heavily at the beginning, was there's a user ID, but there's no user ID information for posts. So what we're going to be doing is getting the user's information, which is here, and we're just marrying up the information which is on the post to what we've got on the user's endpoint. So let's render out the contents of this object first of all. So in a h1, and I'm just going to grab this from here. The mouse, the trackpad on this laptop is the worst. we go back to that page here, we have a header which isn't rendered properly. So why is that not text for Excel? Okay, so what I want to do here is back in my post page, we'll get the author information. So I could do that in this page.ts file. So we're going to be adding some additional information in here to go and get the user's endpoint, match up post ID, user ID with the endpoint, and there's a fair bit of work to do for that. So what we'll do is we will do that first of all, and then we're going to have a look at doing a SvelteKit endpoint where we can just go off to the dummyJSON API, pass in the paths and IDs we want, and then we'll just have one central location rather than calling out each time to the dummyJSON API. So let me take a look at what those here. Before we do that, I'm going to take a quick comfort break. Everyone okay? Right, okay. We'll come back in 5 minutes, I think. Are you from the wrong okay? Yeah, that's like right here. Cool. Yeah. All right. Following, I think it's an extra job, I guess, explain the associated parts. Yeah, it's the plus page notation. It's how those it's like the data in the plus page .ts file is plus the page. Thank you. I need to do a better job of explaining that. So thank you.
I can't understand that, which out is really why.
Okay.
So.
Is it my accent?
I it's open your mouth to the line,
Okay.
so it's a bit indistinct.
Right.
Doesn't matter, we'll find it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was me. I'm so sorry. I need to delete that. Yeah, sorry about that.
I was looking at that. Is it okay?
Yeah, no, I'll post it twice.
Sorry, I'm pretty sure you already explained that.
Yeah,
When do
sorry.
I have to prefix plus and when you
So if you're doing home, that's fine. But if it's for use, always have associated page. So plus page is in a folder, so if we get exclusive post, don't worry about this /ID. Page.svelte is all it needs to have that root to / post on your on the site. If you want to have data associated with that page, you need to have plus page or plus page objects. And then in load function format, pass that data to that page. So whatever level it is in the file structure, dictates the root you get in your application.
This is all convention, which is.
Thank you.
Yeah, whenever I want to go to the it's quite a few times as well. Not today,
Almost. I haven't consulted everything. Some part of user template, the component.
Okay, so if you go, do you have the version of that?
No.
Go to, let's go to SS10, SS10 /links. That's fine. And on that page, just search for CSS. That's okay. Yeah. That's what we showed us. Yeah. We're okay? Good. All right. So, choose your adventure, and then we're in the rest. Sorry. Get that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Last section. Big push. Got 20 minutes. Right, let's get some sugar. Okay. Okay, thank you everyone for the feedback so far. This is going to really help for future workshops. So, where we are at the moment, we're rendering out some page information. We're still dumping out the data which has been passed to the page. But you might notice that there's some, we're reusing the same sort of pattern. And up till now, that's all we needed really to get going with this. But what I want to talk about quickly is endpoints in SvelteKit. So an endpoint is where you can define HTTP verbs, get, put, delete, etc. And then that's available to your project. So what we can do is just go to the file. I'm doing this because I want to match up the ID of a user to a post, just so we can get a name, and then we can link to that user information as well. So we're going to define, where is it? Don't need to make a post room. We want to get this username. Yeah. Right. Let's click there. Okay. Let's try that. Right. So here, defining the routes to the dummyJSON endpoint. And in here, I'm going to create a server.ts file, which is this here. And I'm going to copy paste this into that file, which is here, dummyJSON. This is a server.ts file. So next here, I've got a get. We're going to get information from the dummyJSON API. So let's just make this a bit smaller. see it. See it all. It's all quiet. Dummy.json is going to be / from the localhost / dummy.json. It's going to go off and get our information for us and return it as JSON here. Before we do that, we'll pass in the parameters. So / square representation means we pass in parameters to that endpoint. So / posts / user, that's what gets passed in as the parameters. We're taking out the ID, if there is one, being passed to it. So if we have question mark user equals 4, they'll get passed in as an ID. And then we're also checking what the type of the endpoint is. So the ID, it's totally lost my train of thought with this, right? So we're labeling parameters type here. So if there's an ID in that endpoint, we're going to use API endpoint / ID. Otherwise, it's just this, which will be the parameter being passed in / user / post. And that's what gets returned as JSON. So if we go to the local host here and go to dummy, this could be anything you want to call it. Well, I like the .json, so you know what's in that root. Maybe see if I start dev server. Might help. So this / dummyJSON isn't going to get us anything because there's not a parameter passed to it. So posts should give us the posts. There you go. So that's all posts from the endpoint. And we can also do the same for users. So we've got this information now. And rather than using that in individual groups like we've got here for our post, we can just call to our endpoint and use that instead. Yes, I've got it in the notes here, so you can go to / posts, or if you want to get a particular post, like we were looking at when Firefox was trying to be helpful. We can get users 9 and pass those in as query parameters. So in our page.ts file now, we're going to use problem sort just so we can do this in parallel, and we're going to get the posts and the users. And you can notice that we've got question mark here, just to say this is terrible here. That is a query parameter. So back over in my page.ts file here. You notice the / dummyJSON. That's now calling out to our server for the dummyJSON endpoint in SvelteKit. We're passing the post and the users here. Checking if the response is okay for both of them. Adding them to variables and then spreading one into the other for post data. And all we really want to get out of the user data here is the first name and last name. So over in the page data now, sorry, over in our page.svelte file now, if we go to the dev server and pick one of these, and you notice we've got the username And we can use that as a link to ID1 with that name. So we can just put that into an A tag to go off to that page. So, one thing I did mention, which I want to illustrate now, is this data.SvelteKit preload data or hover. When I said if there is a root in an anchor tag which has a corresponding load function in it, it will go off and run there before showing you the page. So let's just illustrate that quickly by going off to the home page here. Pop it up in the dev tools and go into the network tab. Let's do a hard refresh on this. Right, so go to hover over this. It's gone off and got the page information for us, which I believe is this one. Which is, this information here. So that really gives you that snappy app feeling, because by the time you clicked on it, the information is already loaded for that page. But what we're going to do was just render out this username here. So let's just copy this and put this in here. So I do realise we are rapidly running out of time, so I want to get through as much of this as possible. So you might have noticed this HTML. What is that? So this is if you have got so if you're using CMS and you don't control the information that is in there, it might be in HTML form. So this will just transform it for you. That's very handy for if you're getting information from third-party sources. What I would say is make sure that you trust the source, because otherwise you're opening yourself up for cross-site scripted attacks if the data isn't sanitized, which is going in there. In this case, we trust the dummyJSON API to give us clean data. Okay, so if we go back on over to one of our posts, this one, and this is what I was talking about earlier. If we click on Alison Reich, it's directed us to user 47. So I want to get user 47's information. At the moment, I don't have the root for that, so we need to generate that. Oh, one other thing as well. If you are noticing the layout of your the width of your text doesn't quite look right, there's a little table typography where table typography only goes to a certain width for some reason. And if you just plot this into your tailwind config, it goes to, it removes the next width for you. Confused me for a long time now when I was using it a while ago. Okay, let's get this user group done. So, let's go back over here, paste in these commands. So this is going to create a /user ID, and in this command here, also create a page.ts and page.svelte file. So let's go back on to user. In page.ts, I'm going to grab the information from the endpoint. So I'm going to do that here. And again, I'm just using dummyJSON, and for the users, I'm passing in a query parameter for the user's ID, which is coming into the page.ts file. I'm wondering why is code complained?
Server. You're not running the server right now.
I've got it in the server, right. That's exactly what it's doing, thank you. So it should go away. There we go. Yeah. Well, nice to have this code screen with them. Okay, let's go get the page data. And plug this into here. And save that. So now if we click on a user, it should take us to that user. But again, I've already heavily caveated this. The user for dummyJSON API doesn't match the post API. So this table would do it if you did have users with posts and they're related. But in this instance, we don't. But let's have a display user information for that. Let's go back to the notes here. Yeah, I've caveated it here as well. So if you follow along, what's the word? I've explained enough already. Okay, so REST parameters. So what we were doing was explicitly saying users and passing the equipment parameter. What we could do, because at the moment that will come through as just /users, and then anything after that will just give us an error. So if I go to the dummyJSON endpoint, and then put in a /users9, it doesn't recognise that. So what we can do is in our parameters here, is rather than just having it at one level, we want to spread in the rest of the parameters for that group. So with that done, /users9 now should be that user. So this means that the previous stuff we've written here, we could just take that out and then have / here instead. And this is really handy because this means that we can go quite deeply into the REST API here and start picking out other things. So we're not just limited to users or the use of posts. We can start, doing stuff in like the car or the products and start going through all this information as well. So what I'm hoping is we've got 5 minutes. I'm hoping that is enough information to get you started. We've gone through the basics of loading data, getting information from an endpoint, rendering it out to a screen. Is there any questions anyone has before we go further? We've got 5 minutes, so we could do some of the bonus material. If everyone's happy with it, okay?
From your development, the whole flow seems quite snappy. So why does people complain about SvelteKit's development experience? I don't understand this. This is quite good.
Good. I'm glad you
Yeah,
like it.
and the speed as well when you're loading.
It's super fast. So one thing I did actually, that's thanks to why it's so fast. One thing I didn't actually cover, and you may have noticed when I was typing stuff out, I wasn't actually saving stuff. So if we go to page as well, which is this one here.
The speed went off.
Oh no! Okay, no, nothing. I don't know why it's gone off. No. Try that again. Well, I guess that concludes the workshop. We're good to go. What I'll do is poke around this for a bit. OP. Yeah, check that. I did kick it out before, so make sure I'll check that one. Yeah, so what was I going to say?
You're going to
Rather
say
than
it's
put
not
that
about developing experience.
because we can't put it up there. So what I was going to say is that I use a VS Code setting, which is this one here. What I say after delay, because I wasn't actually saying any classes, put something in the tablet. This thing with hopefully it's so fast, actually just updates straight away. Which I was
With your VS Code section.
yeah. So what I say after delay and just do what I say, put it half a second. It can cause issues. It can, have software is updating, when it comes up down there, and then it goes that doesn't exist. The feedback loop is not necessarily. What you get with.
Okay, what would be the recommended file stress test as well? Say, so the conventional way is still put the routes in the same place, same files.
Yeah, so convention would be.
So I would put like API app browser.
So proper introduction. This is essentially an API. And there's something called put in, Bruce API dummyJSON.
Is it the same? You're just publicly exposing your.
Well, I mean, I've done it for Bruce JSON. I mean, if you don't want to expose, then I guess do it on the server.
Yeah. So if I move it out of the route,
But this is part of the support services.
So it has to be
Yeah, something like that. But how you protect it is use authentication numbers.
I had to reset it.
Can't use it that way. But yeah, I've had issues with the Google bot. Try to call the endpoints.
So what if you have several, different, coming from different?
Yeah, that's fine.
Then do you batch them in one router? Or just all of them?
I mean, separation concerns, I'd say, different files. Yeah, it depends on how, what you're using. For simplicity sake, I mean, I could have done that. Seven JSON in two separate files, but I thought it made more sense to I think we're done. If anyone else needs anything, I'd love some feedback. I've had some great feedback already. They talk very clearly, so sorry.
Maybe it's the mic's problem, is that your problem?
It's the mic.
Yeah, like maybe put your mic problem.
I've never liked these programs really, but I couldn't really sit there with one in front of my face. So yeah, apologies if I did mumble. So thank you.